Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the LCI St. Louis Community of Practice. We're really glad to have you join us today for a topic that definitely has had a lot of buzz recently. So we are talking today in our digital journey about how blockchain technology is impacting the construction industry, and in particular, how it relates to lean construction. Before we get started with today's program, I'd just like to invite everyone to join us on our LinkedIn page if you haven't done so yet. The best way to get updated with our events and our activities. We're also, likewise, next slide, please. We are on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is LCI St. Louis Community of Practice. And if you'd like to see past events that have been recorded, that's also we're on social media. You can follow us there and like their videos, and you'll be able to take a look at programs like this and webinars that we've done in the past. So without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Kurt Gilson. I've known Kurt personally for the past 7 years. Kurt is also well known in the construction industry, particularly in the mechanical piping contracting world, where he has led roles of responsibility as an executive for multiple well-known staple high purity semiconductor pharmaceutical contractors, including Kinetic Systems, which started the if you can say the whole high purity piping revolution in the United States in the semiconductor and the pharmaceutical world. Also, he's an entrepreneur and founder of iPurity, a company that he founded based on lean principles and digital transformation. And he also was the president of Total Facility Solutions, president and CEO of Bill Finger Industrial Services, and recently the founder and president of Welding Chain, which he'll talk to us in this presentation. So without further ado, Kurt, welcome to the St. Louis Community of Practice. It's a pleasure to have you join us today. Kurt, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Jose, thank you. And thanks for that introduction. Glad to be here. Sorry, this wasn't the first in-person seminar that you're putting on, but maybe we'll regroup and see each other in person soon. So yeah, topic today is blockchain. Obviously, in the news quite a bit over the past couple of years. Kind of continues to be in the news with the gyrations in the cryptocurrencies, with the kind of new NFTs that are out there. We'll talk about a little bit. And certainly has some potential implications for use in construction, and in particular provide some real interesting opportunities to further us along on our kind of collective lean journey. So why blockchain? Well, it's really the fastest, most stable and secure way to send and record information. It's a way to leverage existing technology with new layers of technology that really transform the way that we'll be communicating with one another, and provides for really dramatic reductions in the costs that it takes to collect, verify, and store transactions. And in particular, what we want to focus on today is the concept of transactions, because that's really what blockchain is all about. It's already disrupting foundational issues such as finance and commerce, and is sure to roll over and have some major implications on the construction industry. It's expanding rapidly. Every week there are new applications that are being rolled out. And as it expands, the costs to develop and deploy the technology go down pretty dramatically. And as that happens, that enables new business models. And some of those we can explore today. But those costs are coming down, barriers to entry are being reduced, and there certainly will be an explosion of applications outside of the world of construction, but increasingly within construction as well. And really the transparency, traceability, and the control that smart contracts bring support essentially all of the lean principles. And that was the connection that Jose really was interested in developing during this presentation. So we hope that at the conclusion of the presentation, you'll have a much deeper understanding of blockchain technologies, their links to lean construction, and some of the new business models that blockchain makes possible. So on the agenda today, we will start with an opening poll question to kind of gauge the level of understanding that the audience has. And you see that that poll question is up there now. Thank you all for starting to respond. We'll talk about Web3 and what that means for the evolution of the internet. And it's really an understanding of Web3 that is fundamental to the understanding of what blockchain technology is. We'll then dive into blockchain technologies. We'll look at applications that have been deployed in construction. We'll look at the links between blockchain and lean construction. We'll look at a use case. We'll summarize what we've talked about. Then we'll have a closing poll question, and then finally some Q&A to round things out. So that's where we're headed today. Very interesting. We see that about 30% of you currently have a cryptocurrency wallet. So a lot of what we're talking about today, you'll have some familiarity with, and then even more so. So about 70% do not have a wallet. So as we walk through this and you come to appreciate kind of how Web3 comes together and how blockchains and wallets interact, we'll see what your expectation is going forward regarding having a wallet for yourself. So Jose, I'm assuming that everyone can see the results of the poll. Very interesting, and thank you very much. We got very, very high levels of audience participation.
I just
all right. So there's the poll question. Okay. So let's back up a little bit and talk about the web or the internet, because I think what's happening now is really building on the different layers and functionality that has developed on the internet over the past 20 plus years. And what the web provided in essence was the foundations for the information economy, where in its first version, it was very straightforward. It was primarily used to read information that others had posted. So it's kind of one way, and allowed for file sharing, allowed for for sites where things could be posted, and information could then be downloaded and read. Web 2 was an evolution of that, where the functionality was created primarily as a result of the creation of centralized platforms where people could interact with the web and over the web. So there was kind of a read and write functional opportunity. And that gave rise to social media, to e-commerce, things like Wikipedia, where not only could you from a one-way standpoint, read what was on the web. You could then post comments. You could change what was sitting on the platform's servers. But in the end, it was all very concentrated. It went from really being a computer-to-computer type of network to one where there was a high level of centralization, and most of the functionality, the advanced functionality, was provided by centralized service platforms and the Facebooks, the Amazons, and so forth. So when we talk about Web3, we're talking about kind of the next evolution. And rather than really revolutionizing the front end of the web in terms of how individuals interact with the web, it's really a back-end revolution that adds additional capabilities to the web, such that you can now execute transactions in a way that are stored on the web itself, as opposed to through some centralized platform. So that's kind of the key concept that we'll be talking about during this session. The concept that the internet now has a layer that allows for the memory, so to speak, of transactions between parties. So that's a key concept. That's kind of why I wanted to put this slide up, to really focus on the shift from a platform economy to one where information that's shared between parties is stored independent of a centralized platform. So what the Web3 does, it adds a way on the internet to hold something called state. And state is, it refers to the status that an actor has, who that person is, what they own, what they have the right to do. So in Web 2, the internet itself was only dealing with the transfer of information between parties. It doesn't store the fact that transaction took place, or how it affected the last state that a participant was holding. So the current web manages just the transfer of information, but now with the blockchain, the network itself, or the internet as a whole, can collectively remember preceding events or interaction without a central service provider. So that is really one of the key concepts, and one of the key takeaways is that blockchain allows the internet to remember transactions and remember the last state of a participant. So what are the different blockchain technologies that we're going to talk about today? First, we'll talk about the blockchain. It's fundamentally just a ledger that's sitting across the internet that permanently and securely records transactions. Again, so the blockchain itself is just a ledger with records of transactions. On top of that sits something called a smart contract. And that's a key development as well. And that sits on the next layer above the blockchain, and that puts conditions on what blockchain transactions are actually going to be recorded. So blockchain records, a smart contract puts conditions on what gets recorded. The next key concept is that of a token. So a token is essentially just an address on a blockchain that tracks ownership and balances. So that's kind of at the center of it all when it comes to how this new web set of applications remembers what's happening between parties on the internet. It's via the token. So that becomes a very central concept in all the discussions of Web3 and all the blockchain applications. The next key concept, and there are 5 of them, so we're almost done here in terms of exploring kind of what the key technologies are, and that's something that we talked about previously, and that's the wallet. And that's a piece of software that sits on the web that accesses the token accounts. Again, the blockchain records smart contract conditions. The token uses those conditions then to track ownership and balances. The wallet lets you access those tokens. And then apps, that's the software that interacts with smart contracts and the blockchain via the web. So that's the front end. That's what the user experiences. And everything else that leads up to that is just a way to enable those applications. So what we're going to spend a little bit of time doing here is to kind of going from the outside in, from the user experience down into the blockchain. So we'll start outside in. We'll talk a little bit more about the apps. And again, not much new here, right? These are ways to access the information on the web. It could be a web browser, it could be a mobile interface. And the key distinction here is that it's interacting with a decentralized platform versus currently a centralized platform. So the current architecture is essentially client server, where clients, users are accessing a centralized platform to interact and manage data. In this case, they're not acting with a single entity that's managing, but they're interacting with the entire platform or entire blockchain. So the wallet. So the wallet is used in concert with the blockchain application. And it's what ties together the application with the tokens. So it's a standalone wallet that's typically an extension to a browser. And unlike a traditional wallet that actually holds coins, these software wallets don't hold values. They only hold the keys that are used to access balances, token balances, and to initiate or to confirm transactions. So it's a piece of software that you attach to an application that then lets the application know, gives it access via your keys to enable transactions or to confirm the balances that you have in your account prior to undertaking a transaction. There are many types of wallets. The wallet is really the way in which most of the hacking of the blockchain has taken place. It hasn't been the blockchain itself that's been hacked, but it's been through wallets that might have been in a custodial account where the custodian didn't adequately store or secure the keys, or some very interesting developments over the past day where the FBI now really for the first time was able to go in and recover Bitcoins that were used in a ransomware attack. And they were able to identify it and go to the custodian of the wallet and recover the Bitcoins. Now, if the ransomware party had used a wallet that was not in a custodian account or off the blockchain itself, they would not have been able to do that. But in this case, there was a way, and it's kind of an interesting development, and just goes to show how much all the federal agencies are now much more adept at working within this in this new world. So that's the wallet. Now it's tokens. There are literally thousands of tokens that have been minted over the past 5 to 10 years, primarily since 2017, when it was made very easy to mint tokens on the Ethereum platform. So there are lots of types of tokens. Won't go into the details now, but there are security tokens that are used to represent ownership in a company or ownership in a piece of artwork, for example. Utility tokens that are used to trade on a platform. Currency tokens, which most of the tokens are associated with, such as Bitcoin or Ether or Dogecoin. They're privacy tokens that are used to keep your browsing information, for example, private. And then there's really what's taken off really in the past 2 or 3 months is the non-fungible token, the NFT, that's used to represent ownership in an asset such as an artwork or sports memorabilia or any type of collectible. That makes it much easier to trade and to break up into the smaller portions to sell off. Those are the NFTs. Now, within construction, there are very few tokens. We'll talk about that a little bit. But I think that's really one of the opportunities in terms of new business models is to bring some of that token technology to bear on some challenges within construction. So, for example, right, tokens can be used to provide micro incentives to drive participant behavior, and that is kind of key. One of the key things that the blockchain technologies enable is to be able to target behavior through incentives based on the delivery of tokens to incentivize or reward that behavior. And we'll explore that a little bit further later. Now, what makes all this work is something called a smart contract. Now, it's not a contract in the typical kind of legal term, multi section that deals with insurance and liability and damages and so forth. It's simply a piece of code that sits on the blockchain that allows a transaction to take place. So it's a box with a lock, and what unlocks it is some type of event that enables the transaction to take place. So what makes this so powerful is that external information, can be brought into the blockchain to enable these transactions and reduce transaction costs. So a great example is a type of smart contract, for example, between a site and a delivery company, where the smart contract for, let's say, delivering a certain amount of concrete. There's an internet enabled device on the truck. As the concrete is dispensed, the amount is recorded, and then that triggers a smart contract, triggers the payment, to the concrete company for delivery. So that bypasses the invoice, the verification process. So that's an example of a smart contract. But they're ripe. It could be within the blockchain itself, where it's only actors on the blockchain, for example, that someone will only get paid or get a token released when what they've done has been verified by a third party on the blockchain. That's another example of a smart contract. But the main idea here is that the smart contract puts conditions on the blockchain transactions. So now we get into the blockchain itself, kind of at its fundamental layer. And the main idea here, and hopefully what you'll walk away with, is that the blockchain itself is simply a way of recording transactions in a permanent and secure fashion. So a little bit of complexity in terms of how that is actually accomplished. But at its core, as the diagram shows, transactions are proposed between two parties. A network of nodes, multiple nodes, validates the proposed transaction. And then in a second step, the transaction is included as part of the blockchain in a new block. And then all of the blockchain is updated and distributed to all of the different nodes that then go through and process the next block. So it's a way of gathering up transactions, verifying them, then adding it to the blockchain. And the way that that's done is miners nodes are recruited to go through the process, which is a complicated cryptographic process, to then make that next block secure. So they're rewarded with tokens to do that. And then what they've done is validated on the platform, on the blockchain, by at least 51% of the other nodes. So that makes it very difficult for anyone to try to get around the verification process. And again, it's been proven, it's never been hacked. The blockchain itself, any examples of hacking have come through failures of the smart contract code or through lack of security around wallets. Lots of discussion here. Mining in its current form, which is primarily something called proof of work, is extremely energy intensive. But the good news is that there are alternative methods that are just as secure, that work a lot faster, around a concept called proof of stake, that some of the core blockchain platforms are migrating to, that really will lower costs, lower energy usage, lower usages by factors of 200 to 300 times. So that's the kind of sequence I wanted to go through from the outside in, from the app to the wallet to the token to the smart contract, and then what underlies it all is the blockchain. So blockchain and construction. Really, it wasn't until 2017 or so that all of the blockchain and cryptocurrency came into the press, and lots of use cases, lots of different initial coin offerings, and what followed was a lot of interest by the construction industry in blockchain. So this is a Google Trends chart that shows the relative interest in terms of web searches that was taking place. So it peaked in the 2018 timeframe, kind of dropped off and remains at fairly low levels. Now, if we were to overlay the overall interest in blockchain, this was kind of a phase shift of 6 to 12 months. Previously in that first cycle. So a lot of interest, a lot of hype, countless references and conferences, academic papers and articles referencing the potential impact of blockchain, its potential to transform the construction industry. And really coming out of that, a few ventures have seen the light of day. And essentially to this point, none have really scaled. So there's some very, very interesting, development cases underway. I'm not doing justice to all of them that are out there. Many of them are internal to different construction companies and engineering houses that are looking at how they can deploy blockchain. But these are some cases of ones that are built for broader deployment and not specific to any one particular company. Now, a lot of these are focused on supply chain, on project management, financial integration, tying in Internet of Things. So a pretty broad range, but most of them in the kind of financial and contract and project management side of things. And really only one that has a true token that can be traded, and that's an interesting use case here. Block members, where they're using tokens to enable modularization of residential construction. But it's kind of interesting. A lot of the ventures, and some of them that are mentioned here, are completely avoiding the hype and the trap of blockchain by not referencing that technology in terms of what they're doing, but kind of doing it quietly behind the scenes. So one company in particular just raised a ton of money. That's Brick. And some of what underlies their approach, from what I understand, came out of a Brick Chain initiative that really looked to leverage the blockchain and create kind of virtual currencies, but they're not referring to it as blockchain, but simply focusing on what their application does. But again, so here are some very interesting ones. BIM Chain, focused on bringing BIM to the blockchain. DigiBuild, which is kind of out in the wild and gaining customers, and then of course Brick. But these are some that have kind of seen the light of day, so to speak, and give a reasonable indication of how this technology can be deployed within construction. So the interest is still out there. There's a lot of academic work that's being done through a number of construction and related organizations that are investing in academic research. The Construction Industry Institute, along with CURT, has a Operating System 2.0 initiative, bringing together supply chain neighborhoods. And a key element of that is blockchain, and exploring ways of creating those neighborhoods built on blockchain. There's a construction blockchain consortium based in the UK. It does peer-reviewed academic research, a lot of advanced thinking in terms of potential use cases for blockchain in construction, but really mostly academic focused, not a lot of real world use cases. Construction Progress Coalition, not specifically around blockchain, but really focused on common data exchange formats that make the implementation of blockchain technologies more straightforward. Interesting development, Blockchain for Energy, which is a consortium of energy industry owners. They put together a blockchain-enabled joint venture initiative to track all the aspects of how these major multi-billion-dollar joint ventures are managed. I mentioned Kurt. There's also a blockchain research institute that's done a lot of work on blockchain for project management office and management of multiple capital ventures by owners. And then there's Blockchains LLC, which is really focused on more of an ecosystem and providing tools for asset and supply chain management that also relate to construction applications, but not specifically construction. So really, when you look at it, there are a few, but again, not doing justice to everything going on. A lot of work at universities. Pretty much every university that has a construction program has some blockchain research going on. So didn't want to list all those, but these are more the consortiums that have their fingers in it, so to speak. So what are the challenges with blockchain and construction? First is that it is expensive to develop and energy intensive, which makes the transaction costs fairly high. So anyone that has those wallets and has played around with moving coins from one wallet to another knows it's a pretty high transaction cost. Now, the good news now, and the reason I think that these technologies will get a lot more use in the coming years, is that the industry knows that's a problem, and there's some very, very powerful new technologies that are being layered on top in order to make the transaction costs very, very small, back to what it was intended to, which was kind of a pennies a transaction, and to really lower the very energy intensive mining that's taking place right now. But that has prevented the development and deployment of the blockchain, and again, not just in construction, but in other applications as well. Blockchain's unfamiliar. I think there's a expectation that it takes a lot to master, a lot to figure out what's going on. Hopefully, the way I'm explaining it, you can get the kind of core concepts and the kind of essentially the simplicity and elegance of what blockchain is, and how that relates to challenges in our industry. There's a lot of confusion about what blockchain is. A lot of assumptions that blockchain and Bitcoin are the same thing, when blockchain is just the foundational technology that enables things like Bitcoin to happen. Most construction use cases currently focus on disrupting long-standing commercial and legal relationships, and that's a tall order. That really requires tackling kind of one set of relationships at a time, getting everybody on board, and it's really focused at an owner and contractor level, and so the deployment is essentially one win at a time. So the use cases right now don't really have a network effect that is what really drives these types of applications. So with the lack of that network effect that really focuses on the development of a platform and a lot of kind of bottoms up pull of the technology into the industry, it's going to be slow and hard going. So those are some of the challenges that the construction industries faced, not dissimilar to what other industries kind of have gone through already, that are being disrupted by blockchain. So what's the link between blockchain technology and lean construction? So we look at the key tenets: the respect for people, optimizing the whole, generating value, eliminating waste, focusing on flow, continuous improvement. A lot of the properties of blockchain directly support those tenets. And if you look at the particular elements of the technology, the distributed ledger, the blockchain itself, the smart contract, the tokens, they specifically link to the principles of lean. So the fundamental opportunity is that the blockchain technologies can drive alignment and trust within construction parties, because everyone is relying on a trusted platform where the information is accessible, it's transparent, it is unchangeable, and the smart contracts allow a lot of collaboration to take place in terms of how they're structured, how the agreements are structured. And there's no question when something's taken place, how the information was shared, where the information is stored. So it leads to much higher levels of collaboration. So all of these have some role to play in supporting lean construction deployments. And so the industry is looking for opportunities in terms of governance, using smart contracts to manage IPD projects. There's some work out there being done on that. And really focusing on transactions within the supply chain, making them more automatic, more transparent, and dramatically reducing the overhead around payment processes, disputes around payments, and so forth. So a lot of very rich set of opportunities and work that's been done in these areas. So one of the things that Jose asked me to explore a little bit is a specific use case. That's one that I'm working on to kind of tie all these elements together. Really focus on the quality aspects that blockchain can support, as opposed to the commercial transactions, which I think take a lot more to get implemented within existing relationships. So the Weld Chain example is a platform that's intended to collect and verify and store information relating to certified welding. So it's a very specific case, and it really only applies to the information around the weld itself, not to pay for the weld, not to pay the inspector, not to pay the contractor, but to transact around the information that is so critical to ensuring that systems that are installed that have in some cases tens of thousands of welds are all made to code, and that they can be demonstrated, and that can be demonstrated to regulatory authorities, to insurance underwriters, to the owner themselves, that it meets all the requirements of the code and the specifications. It's a very inefficient process right now. There's really no standard on how data is collected and transferred to the owner. Much of that information is lost very quickly after the project is completed. So in this case, what we're putting in place is a platform that incentivizes all the different actors to record the information in a timely and accurate and verifiable manner, and eliminate a lot of the waste associated with paper records and the serial transfer of information from one party to the next party to the next party. So it really leverages the blockchain's ability to work across organizations and ensure privacy, ensure integrity of information, and essentially permanence of the information. Because once that information, that transaction is stored on the blockchain, it's there forever. So what enables all of this, in addition to the technology, is that the concept of using tokens, using coins, to incentivize contractors for registering a weld, which means defining what the specification is, what the WPS is, incentivizing the welder to make sure that all the information that's required is collected at the time the weld is made, and that it's the right information the first time. Incentivizing the inspector to inspect the weld in a timely manner and verify the inspector's credentials, verify the methods. So they get rewarded with coins for putting that information onto the blockchain. And then on the other side of the transaction, what makes it a two-sided market essentially is that the owners or their commissioning agents, anyone that needs to get that information off of the blockchain, uses coins to extract that information. So essentially what happens is those coins go from the party that needs the information to those that are providing the information, and gets around all of the intermediate processes that currently take place in order to collect and retransmit that information. So that's a kind of a use case that seemed to really leverage all of the different technologies. Really speaks to the lean tenets of focusing on flow, of eliminating waste, and really aligning all of the different parties around one method, regardless of the owner, the general contractor, and really provides additional reward to those that are really doing the work, that are creating the information that's required, over and above creating their individual work product. So it's a way to bring all this together. And I know we're coming up on the end here, but there are lots of benefits really across the board when it comes to the welders, and the fact that the blockchain now allows them to have ownership over their weld history. They currently don't have a weld history that's verified. They go from contractor to contractor, site to site, and their information is not portable. So they have no history of their welds, and oftentimes they don't really have any understanding of whether the welds they made were accepted, because they've gone to the next job, and it might be months before the welds are inspected and a flaw is found. So they might be doing something that they don't even know is causing their work to be compromised. Inspectors, same thing. They don't really have a history of their inspections, the ability to record their credentials, and easy access to the information that was generated at the time of the weld. So this gives them direct information, not manual logs and so forth. It's all stored one time on the blockchain. So contractors benefit, they don't need to develop their own custom databases that vary with, different specifications, maintain paper logs and so forth. All this becomes permanent, one unified system across the supply chain, essentially. And it's a permanent record. And it then provides a record of the contractor's performance, which currently doesn't exist. There is no standard across the industry from a quality standpoint that an owner can look to say, okay, what is this contractor's performance when it comes to welding, similar to what's available right now when it comes to safety pre-qualifications. And again, as highlighted here, all of those that are participating are earning coins that are transferable to real money as part of participating in this on this platform. So platform exists. Nobody needs to install new software, sign up to a subscription. In fact, it goes the other way around. When they're using it, they're being rewarded. So, it's a kind of a business model that the Web3 and blockchain makes possible that really wasn't possible before this technology has come together. And then the owners and engineers, it's really, how do they benefit? Now they have access to a permanent record. From one facility owner to the next facility owner, if it changes hands, it's a straightforward transfer of ownership of that information. It streamlines the commissioning process. There's no need to re-audit because that audit's taking place as the blockchain information is being accumulated. So again, significant cost and time reductions as a result of the existence of the platform. And then it really extends across the supply chain, where suppliers that open up their MTR databases or gas databases so that they can be verified over the blockchain, they get fractional coins as well. So everything that adds information is being rewarded once it's verified, and then that is being fueled, so to speak, by the purchase of coins that are required in order to extract that information to put into the commissioning package. So that's an example of how all this technology comes together, and ultimately really drives a lean process that takes waste out, that recognizes the individuals for their contribution, and aligns the entire all the parties in the process to one end. So quick recap before we go into questions. Again, the Web3 adds a state layer to the internet, really important concept. That state is maintained securely by the blockchain. Smart contracts simply control whether or not a state is changed. Ownerships and balances are represented by tokens. Tokens are accessed via wallets. And then users interact with this set of technologies through traditional apps that are same on the front end, but that have a wallet attached to it. And then all of this, as a weld chain example, it's just one example of what can be done. They can be used to drive alignment, trust, and collaboration among team members. So Jose, if you don't mind, we'll do a quick final poll. So those of you, I didn't really set this up right. Those of you who already have a wallet, I guess would respond that they'll have one in the next year. But let's see if you think that there's enough momentum behind this technology that we'll see a significant shift in who has a wallet now and who will in the future.
Yeah, we're starting to see the answers come in, and over half of the respondents are saying that they will like to get a wallet here within next
Holy
year.
cow. Wow.
60%.
That's fascinating.
Well, Kurt, we are at the turn of the hour, and like in the spirit of lean, we like to start on time and finish on time. I'd like to take a moment to thank you for providing a really detailed background in terms of what blockchain technology is, and especially how it applies to our industry, the construction industry, and the trends that we can expect in the future. I really appreciate the example of Welding Chain. Good luck, best of luck in this project. I think it's got a lot of power to it. We're going to share your contact information, if you don't mind, your email, in case if there's any questions or follow-ups or additional interest, that they can contact us and contact you for follow-up questions. But overall, thank you everyone for attending this webinar. It's a technology that's relevant, and we're going to keep hearing more and more. And as Kurt explained, really hits at the core of what lean is all about and what we're trying to accomplish through LCI and through the St. Louis Community of Practice. Have a good afternoon, everyone, and we'll see you at our next event. Thank you.